like KSI is doing. They're here, and then they're squatting, they're doing this, and they get like this, and hold it like this, because I can't breathe. Today we gotta coach up your boy KSI, and this his squat video here. Now guys, look, I really like seeing these guys, you know, put themselves out there and show the world that they're working out and they're doing their best to stay fit and stay strong. He's going to a boxing match. He's gotta be strong, he's gotta be explosive, and he's gonna do some squats. But for God's sake, man, we gotta get these guys to do it right before he hurts himself, before he never even reaches into the ring. So you know me, guys, I'm gonna use this video to help you guys correct your squat as well as correcting his. So without further ado, keep your eyes glued to the screen, ears glued to the speakers, and let's learn some shit. All right guys, so the point of this video is to give you guys a step-by-step process of how to set up yourself properly to be in an optimal position to have proper knee and hip flexion, as well as a neutral spine. We're gonna get into this video and just look at a couple of things that KSI is doing not so optimally.
All right, so this is a core stability drill, overhead squats.
When he talks about this being a core exercise, he means it. Doing an overhead squat is gonna expose a lot of you in terms of how mobile you actually are and how stable your core is. Now guys, I'm gonna give you an example for myself. I am not the best at overhead squats because I'm still working on my mobility. That is my #1 priority, is making sure I'm mobile so I can do these movements. So first things first, couple things that are gonna make it easier for you or harder for you to squat is just your overall body structure. #1, if you don't have good mobility in your ankles, that's gonna be hard for you. #2, it's gonna be based on a few things. Tibia length was basically your shin length, your femur length, and then your torso length. So depending on how those are equally dispersed in your body will determine how well you'll actually squat. So if you have long tibia and long femur and then a short torso, you'll do a lot of this. Same if you have a really long torso and a short tibia and short femur, you'll do the same thing. You'll do a lot of this bending over. And if your ankle mobility isn't good, what's gonna happen is when you squat, your heels will come off the ground. Now, if you have the budget, get squat shoes. If you don't, then you can, get some like weights to put on your feet or like a wedge. But to give yourself an advantage right away, get yourself some kind of a heel lift or a squat shoe just to help you with the mobility anyway. It's not gonna cripple you at all, and it's not gonna make you a worse squatter. It's actually gonna benefit and help you get in the proper position. Why not just start off easy in the first place and make it hard for you right away? #1, before we start overhead squatting, we need to be able to get ourselves in the right positioning first to be able to squat, #1. And 2, before we put anything in the air, we need to be able to squat with our body weight first. If you can't do a proper body weight squat, do not try and squat with anything over your head or loading your spine. We'll go through a regression to start anyway, but first off, let's talk about body positioning. Now, my feet for most people, they're gonna be a little outside shoulder width apart, right? It's gonna vary from person to person, but just for the sake of it, guys, for most of you, a little outside shoulder width apart. Not a lot of people have great hip mobility, so standing shoulder width apart, it might be extremely hard for some people. So I'm a little bit of outside shoulder width apart. And what I mean by shoulder width apart, I'm looking at the inside of my heel to my shoulders. Shoulder width apart, if I looked at my feet, is gonna be like this. You're gonna be inside, which makes it very narrow. So I'm looking at the inside of my heel and gauging that as that's where I want my inside of my heels to be outside of shoulder width apart. So it gives me a little bit of stance like this. So now from there, I'm looking at my feet being around like 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock. Pretending your body's like a clock, your crotch is 12 o'clock, and we got 11 o'clock, and we got 1 o'clock. We don't want 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock or 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock, because the more we do that, the less we'll be able to actually create external rotation at the hip. And we'll get there in a second. So back to 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. All right, now that we are here, from the side, I wanna be in a position where I'm a little upright. So I wanna be in an athletic position where my chest is nice and up, shoulders rolled back and away from my ears, and I'm in this nice anatomical position where I'm in a athletic ready stance. Now that we're in a position where at 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, our goal is to make sure when we squat that we don't have this knee valgus stuff. You see this all the time, people are squatting and it's like this. Or they're going down and then they're pushing up. What we wanna do is create external rotation of the hips by pretending that there's a piece of paper on the ground and I'm trying to rip it apart like this. The only thing is I'm not going to actually keep my feet moving. What I'm doing is creating external rotation of the hips. I'm getting my knees to pull open and align with my toes. Once they're in alignment, I'm gonna lock them in. I don't wanna continue rolling them out so I end up doing this kind of thing when I squat. I wanna make sure that as soon as I get to my feet positioned, I'm gonna externally rotate my hips so my knees are aligned with my toes. So when I squat, my job is to make sure that they stay aligned with the toes. So when I go down, they go down over my knees and they stay there. They don't go in this way or, I don't know, doing this, I don't know, something. Just don't do this, please. what's gonna happen is when we externally rotate the hips, what we're doing is we're actually activating our glute medius. This part of our glute here, that top shelf glute, that's gonna help you stabilize from side to side. It's also gonna help stabilize your knees from buckling in. So we need to achieve this so we get this and not this.
It looked like this.
Now we're at 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. External rotate of the hips. We're going to interior pelvic tilt a bit. We're gonna push our butt back a slight bit, but we're still gonna engage our core. I don't want this. We're not doing this. We're just interior rotation a slight bit from here at the hips and engage in the core. This is gonna open up our hips. So when we go down to squat, we have a nice movement of going straight down and squatting and coming back up, right? So if we don't do that and we have our hips like this and we have this weird thing where we're kind of doing this, and I see people doing this all the time and the butt's going the wrong way. So, checklist, feet shoulder width, a little outside shoulder width apart. Toes 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock, external rotation of the hips, interior pelvic tilt a slight little bit, engaging the core to keep our spine nice and tight and active and our TVA engaged. And then from here, our hips and our knees are gonna go the opposite direction at the same time. So we're gonna go here and up. We don't wanna go 1, then 2, or go 1, then 2. We're gonna let those knees go this direction, the hips go this direction. Hip and knee flexion on the way down, and then pushing back up. While we're in this position, remember, we got a checklist. Now, feet are feet a little outside, shoulder width apart. Toes are at 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. Externally rotating the hips like we're pretending to rip a piece of paper from the floor. As soon as we do that and they're aligned with our toes, we lock it in, we flex a little bit. Then we're gonna have our hips a little anterior pelvic tilt back a little bit while engaging the core to keep the core nice and stable and strong. And then chest gonna be up nice and tall, a slight little bit of a lean, and then our hips and knees are gonna flex at the same time. So we're gonna go down, we're gonna flex at the same time and going down and pressing up. What you wanna feel is your toes and your heels engage in the floor at the same time. Don't try to shift your weight back to your heels. Don't try to shift weight to your toes. Grip your toes in the floor, let them feel the floor gripped underneath you, and then hips and knees are gonna flex at the same time going down, and then you're gonna push in the floor and coming right back up. Now, a good test for you to do, you should be able to do a squat like this. You should be able to sit down here and do a squat with your hands to the side like this. If it's hard for you to do that, you can work on some mobility, right? But work on it. If you can only get a certain depth, like if you can only get to here before you start kind of, then only squat to here. Get yourself used to getting there, then get lower, and then get lower, and then eventually you can get all the way down. Now, a good thing to do when you're here, if you can't get down here, is just to get yourself in a position and just rotate back and forth on your ankles, just kind of round and round and pushing your knees out and getting here while you can be in position, where you can be in this bottom position and active, and then coming back out. There you go. Hey, before we keep going, guys, a lot of you guys watch the video not subscribe, so do your boy a favor and subscribe to the channel. How do we get to 500,000 subscribers? ASAP, like now. And hopefully you like the video. If you do, hit the like button. So there's your first squat. Now let's just get right into it. If you can't do a front squat, and we're gonna look at this front squat really quick. This is what you do not wanna do when you front squat, and this is what you do not wanna do when you do an overhead squat as well too. We're gonna pass an overhead squat. We're gonna talk front squatting because I see a lot more people doing front squats than do overhead squats. I'm gonna leave that for another video. When we're doing a front squat, very similar to doing a goblet squat. So if you can't do a front squat, do a goblet squat. What that's gonna do is gonna put you in the same position anatomically when it comes to the load being dispersed in your body, as well as how your body's gonna be in posture-wise with the weight in front of you. So we're here over our kettlebell. We're gonna get her up here. Now, if you don't have a kettlebell, you can use a dumbbell as well too, but you wanna hold it like a goblet, like you're about to take a drink, like the Last Supper or some shit. Whatever, it's a goblet, right? We're holding it like this, not like this. We wanna be in this position here so we can tuck our elbows in. And from here, that's gonna actually put ourselves in a good position for a nice strong torso. And letting the weight kind of depress the shoulders a bit, keeping this up. And then we can do our squat. Again, checklist, feet shoulder width apart, little outside shoulder width apart, toes 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. Externally rotating the hips to make sure they're aligned with their toes. A little bit of a interior pelvic tilt back, engaging the core, chest up nice and tall, and then letting your hips and knees flex at the same time, going down and then coming back up. And there's your position, tucking those elbows in and holding it here and up. There you go. Now, what we want to do with the front squat is do the exact same thing, but having the bar on our chest. And I'll show you that. couple things we want to remember when we're doing a front squat. We are going to transfer the same technique you did with a goblet squat to this bar. The problem I see when we do front squats is a couple of things. Number one, most people aren't flexible enough to do proper front rack. And that's literally being like this, and I'm not there yet. I'm like here, right? So I'm getting there, right? But if I can't get all the way up, if you can, great. If you can't, the next thing people do is they do the whole cross their arm thing. Can you hear me good? You're holding this bar with your shoulders basically. Now, I'll give you an example. You don't really need to cross your arms. You should, obviously, so the bars don't fall off, but you want to be in this position here. So if I was going to be here, this is where my elbows would be to begin with. But when we're going back, we want that bar to stay here. The problem is when people cross their arms, first thing happens is this thing starts doing this. And we can see in the KSI video right here that that's happening a lot. He doesn't have the torso strength or the proper place on the bar to keep a nice neutral spine to do this movement to begin with. So number one, he should be dicing off all that weight. If anything, he should be just really doing just the bar. Actually, to be honest, he should be doing any of this shit. He should be doing just a goblet squat. It's like literally the first exercise he did, he should just be doing goblet squats and body weight until he knows how to do otherwise. He should stick there like everybody else watched this video. So if you can't do a proper body weight squat, do not load anything. If you can do a body weight squat, move to a goblet squat. Once you got the goblet squat down pat, then you move to like, I don't know, a back squat or maybe front, I don't know, regardless. You just don't go to this if you can't do the basics, pretty basic and pretty easy. Anyway, so just so you guys know where we want to be, this bar needs to be, if you see my chest, right? If I get my arms up, or my anterior delts are a little dip here, and my collarbone, that's where it's sitting. And it's being held up by my chest being in a nice position where I'm here, not trying to lift it up like this. And that's how we do, we're elevating our traps. We don't want to do this. I know it's really hard for you guys to catch that in your head. It's a very common thing to do. It's fight or flight. The second we're like this, we want to get like this and hold it like this. We want to be in a position where we're nice and calm and here and collected here so we can keep our shoulders still depressed. I don't want them up here because I can't breathe. For the most part, people that can't do this, can't do it because they're like this. So let you relax, let your shoulders relax, right? Now I'll go from the side without putting my hands up. This is how I want to be. I want my shoulders to stay here. And then I want my torso to stay upright. So when I go down and squat, it stays up. I'm doing my best to keep this up the entire time. I don't want it to roll, because if it rolls, then that happens. And most of you guys are disguising that by holding it. Like KSI is doing, they're here, and then they're squatting, they're doing this, and and their elbows do, and they're doing this. What we want to do is, if we're going to be crossing our hands doing this, we're over top. Hands are going to be over top like this, and then I'm going to take my hands, I'm going to push them up. I'm going to push my elbows up. Try to do that without pushing your shoulders up. Just keep your elbows up. So when I go down, my elbows go up on the way down, and my elbows go up on the way up. My elbows, not my shoulders, my elbows. So I'm here, and then I'm back up. Make sure the rack is at a nice height, so when you come off, when you unrack it, you can just walk back without getting on your tippy toes or have to do a full squat to get it up. So let's do it again. Walk into the bar, getting here comfortable on our shoulder. Elbows gonna come up, I'm gonna cross right over. And from here, we're gonna walk back, a couple steps, line our feet, just like before, a little outside shoulder apart, toes o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock. We're gonna rip a piece of paper on the floor, creating that external rotation at the knees so the knees are over the toes. Hips are gonna come back a tiny little bit, engaging the core, chest up, and elbows are gonna stay up on the way down, and they're gonna stay up on the way up on the way down, and up on the way up. Avoid letting this happen, because as soon as it happens, this starts rolling, and then there goes your squat. So your job is to keep this up all the way. Anyway guys, that is it for the video today, guys. If you guys use any of those cues, make sure you guys let me know in the comment section below. I want to know if this is helping your front squats out, or even goblet squats, or just your squat form, period. Anyway guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and share. You know, become the tell it is transparent, vulnerable truth. And for coaching, johnasheed.com. If you want to know more about my coaching, guys, book yourself a 15 or 30-minute consult. At the end of the consult, I deduct off any package that you pick. Also, hit the description below for those discount codes and promo codes that'll save your life or change your life for the better, like Johnny 10 for 10% off BlueStarNutraceuticals.com. Anyway guys, add me on Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat. Send me your progress pics, your training pics, and your video clips, and I repost it for you, because you know how it is. Iron sharpens iron, progressive overload your life. In the meantime, keep dream chasing. Peace.